excited, super excited. Yep, got a ton of wings coming to the house today and going to have fun with it. Some people over, watch the game. Guys, I want to talk to you about something today that is near and dear to my heart, to who I am, what makes me tick, really what gets me out of bed in the morning and what I've really dedicated my life to. I want to talk to you about it. It's so close to me. So I want to start out with something. I want to tell you, what if the normal Christian experience, what if what we look at as normal as Christians, what if the normal experience, what you often see every single day or every time we get together on the weekend, what if normal wasn't good enough? What if we decided, you know what, I can't be normal anymore. I don't want to follow that normal path. What if normal wasn't good enough? I got saved when I was 17 years old. I was born and raised in Bradenton. I'm a Bradentonian, Tuckian, what do we call her? I don't even know what we call ourselves. I'm a Braden Mutt, something, I don't know, right? I was born here, Manatee Memorial Hospital. I grew up here. My family moved to Georgia probably when I was 13, 14 years old. I was at a spring training for football, and a buddy of mine kind of leaned into me after the practice and said, hey, my youth group is getting together on Friday night, and they are doing a capture the flag thing. One of the guys has a huge piece of property. It's in the middle of the woods, capture the flag at night. We want to win, so would you come out, and play capture the flag with me? And I said, yeah, that sounds awesome. That sounds like something I would love to do, to be in the woods, to do that. Sounds great. So I went, I plugged in with them, and I had a blast. It was so much fun. To be in the mountains. We literally, the one flag was kind of on one mountain, the other flag was on the other mountain. We infiltrated that thing, and it was so much fun, to do. And I realized, I was like, hey, well, these guys are fun to hang out with. And so I started to hang out with them and to go to their youth group kind of events. I didn't know who youth were and, any of that sort of thing. I just showed up, and I was a part of the process, and I got to be friends with them. And finally, one day, somebody walked up to me and said, hey, do you know that we do this thing on Sunday? It's on the weekend, and it's kind of got other people in it, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's up at the church, and I was like, well, I didn't know, but, thanks for inviting me to that, and one day I actually decided to go. And I went there for the first time, and it actually took several weeks, a process of getting used to what that even looked like. And one day, somebody presented the gospel message of Jesus Christ clearer. They'd always talked about Jesus, but it was clearer than I had ever heard before. They talked about this Jesus that had come here to earth and that had died on the cross for my sins and all the things that weighted me down. Everything in my life that I knew that I shouldn't be doing, because I knew I was a jerk, right? I knew that. We all kind of know that a little bit, right? We got those times where we're kind of, off kilter, whatever. I knew that, but I didn't have any way to release that. I just kind of would just walk around with that guilt and that shame and, all those things coming through. And this person told me for the first time that if I believed in Jesus, that he could take that guilt and he could take that shame and he would bear that for me instead of me. That sounded like a good deal. It didn't sound like there was a downside to that. It sounded like, absolutely, sign me up, why not? It's like the infomercial I couldn't pass up. And God was doing something so big in my life that I can remember sitting in a pew. This is a little country church up in Georgia. I can remember sitting in an old-fashioned pew, and my legs were like firing on their own. It was like they were going to get up and walk up there without me. My brain was like, no, sir, not going up. There was an old-fashioned altar call kind of thing. But my legs were going to go without. And apparently, I was making a scene because my friend leaned over and said, dude, you got to get up and go up there, right? And I'm like, well, then I guess that's confirmation. So I went up there. I prayed for the first time. I accepted Jesus into my life. And I can remember the feeling of just the burden getting lifted. I can remember that. It just kind of washed over. I was like, wow, I can trust in him for this. I just felt like I was on fire. It was just like, man, it's amazing. Jesus is taking it from me. I'm like walking around. I got a new pep in my step, everywhere I go. I'm like, I've got a relationship with this Jesus guy. And I went and I was baptized, in the few weeks that followed that. And then I went into the church one day and I looked around and I was like, all right, guys, what next? What's the next step? Where do we go from here? I was ready to go. All right, let's go conquer something, tackle something. And to my surprise, nobody could tell me what was next. I kind of got those, responses like, you should probably read the Gospel of John. You should probably go over, do those things. Make sure you pray every once in a while. Like a couple of things that kind of hit, but nobody could really tell me what was next. Like, where do I go from here, guys? Like, you told me this is a pretty great Jesus, I mean, what am I supposed to be doing with that? And they couldn't really tell me what I was supposed to do. And so here's what I decided. I looked around and I said, I'm going to do what other people are doing. I'm going to look for kind of what's normal. I'm going to look for what they're doing, what's going on. And these people, these are all Christians. And so I'm going to copy those things. And so I noticed, all right, well, they are here every single Sunday. Every single Sunday, rain, shine, whatever. It seems like they're dedicated. I kind of see the same faces every single week kind of come through. So that's it. I'm here on every single Sunday. I'm going to make sure that, flat tire or not, I'm going to crawl here. I'll be here on the weekend, whatever's going on. All right, check. Second thing on the list, I was like, wow, man, these people are on their best behavior when they're at church, right? They act perfect. It's like they change people coming in. It's like, I can do that. I can change people kind of coming in. So I made sure I was on my best behavior. I was prim and proper. I started shaking hands, giving the Christian hugs. You know what I'm talking about? Where you lean in so you don't have to touch each other. You know what I'm talking about? It's like those half hugs, and there's like space in between. That's the neutral zone, and you make sure that you're hugging beyond that. I made sure that happened, and I noticed, I was like, man, I know some of these people in real life, but when they come to church, they're not swearing anymore. So I looked at that, and I was like, I used to swear like a sailor. Like every other word just used to come out and just fly. So I said, oh, man, I can't do that. I got to figure out, how do I express myself without that? And then I learned that there are Christian cuss words that I can do. And I could trade my world cuss words for Christian cuss words. So what I realized is that all I've got to do is to take the same word and just drop all the other letters off and just use the first letter. So I could be like, D, I forgot my keys, What the F, bro? And stub my toe and be like, S, like going around. It's like, I'm a Christian now, And words that we normally just use for like pancakes and hamburgers, I could use that for all kinds. I could be flipping this and flipping that, and going all these places and freaking and like, shut the front door. No way, really? I could do that, right? And so I exchanged all that. I checked it off and I was like, okay, well, see, I don't swear like that. And now I swear I'd use the Christian cuss words. And so I looked at that. And then I looked out in the word to the rest of them and I realized that, what? If I give just every once in a while, and if I serve just every once in a while, and then what I do at the end of a Sunday, I go home and I live my real life, right? Because it wasn't my real life on Sunday. I just go home and I live my real life throughout the week, and then wash, rinse, repeat. I come back on the next Sunday and I'm ready to go. We do the dance again, right? That's what was normal. That's what I saw. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know, is there anything more? What am I supposed to be doing? Nobody could tell me what that actually looked like. I want to read a passage to you. It's in 1 Peter chapter 2, and it's verses 9 to 12. And this is Peter. You guys remember Peter, right? Peter's the guy, Jesus is walking on water. He gets out of the boat. He's walking on water with Jesus, and then he's sinking, and then he comes back again, kind of waffling through. This is his account of really what he feels like the mission is. He says this, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light. For once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. You had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Beloved, I urge you, as aliens and strangers, to abstain from fleshly lusts which wage war against the soul. Keep your behavior excellent among the Gentiles, so that the thing in which they slander you as evildoers, they may, because of your good deeds, as they observe them, glorify God in the day of visitation. I read that passage, I get a lot of conclusions. There are a lot of things that we can draw from that. I get anything but normal. I get anything but normal. Anything else than what I saw when I looked out. Do you get this, the gravity of this testimony? What Peter is actually saying here, you are a chosen race now. a royal priesthood, a holy nation. I didn't know I'd signed up for that. What? What does that mean? How? He says, check this out. This is what Jesus did for you. See, you were once in darkness. I remember that. Now you are in the marvelous light. Jesus did that for me. He changed that around. I was in darkness. He moved me now into this marvelous light. You were once all by yourself, Peter says. You once moved through this life. You may have had immediate family. You may have had some friends. I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of friends who weren't friends. But then he says, you know what? Now you are a people. You were once alone, but you are a people now. Because you see, at one point in time, you were without mercy. But now you are with mercy. And because of what Jesus has done, you can live a life that abstains from fleshly lusts. From all those things you feel trapped into, you can actually have freedom with that. You can move forward in your relationship with God. There's something for you to do because guess who's looking, Peter says? The Gentiles are looking. That's a fancy word for everybody else. Everybody else is looking at you and looking at your life, and it is possible that as they observe you moving through this kind of life, guess what's going to happen? They're going to realize that they can't slander you. They can look at your life and say, wow, he's not all talk. She's not all talk. It's amazing. He's actually living the way that he says. I got to check out what's going on with his life. I got to see what's different in her now. And Peter actually says that as a result, they might glorify God. The world might glorify God in the day of visitation, which is a fancy way of saying when Jesus comes back again. Really? That's what I'm supposed to... That sounds a whole lot bigger than normal. That sounds a whole lot better than normal. That sounds a whole lot better than coming and putting my best on and changing my language around a little bit, wash, rinse, repeat, coming back next Sunday. This sounds big. It sounds like there's a mission. And actually there is, because I believe that God is calling you into the greatest journey you could possibly imagine. He is calling you into the greatest journey you can possibly imagine. He has things for you that you don't even understand yet. Places for you to go, people for you to take the gospel to, a life for you to live. That was the future. That was what was important in front of me. Nobody could tell me that was even there. But it was waiting for me. See, because God has given us, through the power of Jesus Christ, the ability to change the world around us. That's what I get when I read this. I was once alone and by myself, and now I'm connected and together, and I was in darkness, now I'm in light. I had no mercy. Now I have mercy so that I can live a life that is transformed for him. I can move forward in my relationship with him so that when the people of the world look at my life, they'll say, this Jesus must be real, and then they're transformed, and then the whole world begins to change. It ripples out from me. That does not sound normal to me. And what I find so special about this passage, what I find so intriguing, is that it repeats itself. It repeats itself right off the beginning. In two different spots and many different ways. It'll tell us how we do this. How do we actually grab a hold of that? What's the step? I want that life. I don't want normal. I want this journey. What's the step that I have to take? It says it right off the bat. It says that we are this holy nation, this royal priesthood. He says we're this people. That is a fascinating idea. We're this people. It tells us that anyone who responds to God's call, when you respond to that, when you say, Jesus, I want that in my life, I accept you into my life, I want that guilt and shame removed. When you do that, when you accept that, you were once not a people, now you become a people, united together. And this people, God defines in another spot, is called the church. It's not the building, it's not the location, it's not all of these things. The people, you and I, are the church. If we got together in a field, if we got together in a library, if we get together when we're pumping gas at a gas station, that's the church coming together. We were once not that, now we are that, and somehow this thing, right off the bat, is the agent of change in our life. And this idea is so transformative. It is so transformative. Don't let it just slide by. This is so new and so big. It's so big for us today, and it was so big for them 2,000 years ago. And I want to tell you why. When you look at Israel, when you look at the people of Israel, when Jesus comes here to earth, there are a lot of different peoples that are talked about. When you read through the stories, the account of Matthew, the account of Mark, Luke, John, those are our gospel stories. These are real people that accounted for real events in real history. They put that together and they said, this is what's going on. They refer to all these different peoples. You read about these people called Pharisees, and these people called Sadducees, and these people called Zealots, and these people called Herodians, and these people called Essenes, and these people called scribes. There's all of these different people within the nation of Israel, all different backgrounds, all different beginnings. And guess what's really, really special about them? They hate each other. They do. They hate each other. They can't stand one another. I mean, you look at it, the Pharisees believe that there is a resurrection after the dead. They are looking for a Messiah to come. They are anti-business, anti-government. They're the pious ones that walk around acting like they've got it all together. The Sadducees don't believe in a resurrection afterwards. They don't believe that a Messiah is coming. They're big business, big profiteers, in bed with the Romans through the whole time. Guess what happens when you get a Pharisee and a Sadducee in the room? You get that evil eye going. You know what I'm talking about? When somebody in the room you don't like and you got that space in between you, you walk, you do the dance around the room. When you're over here, they're over there, you walk by and you're just like, what's up? You know what I'm talking about? I don't have a conversation, but I know I got to acknowledge you. What's up? I'm a Pharisee, you're a Sadducee. We don't mix with that. I'm telling you, it works for all of these relationships. The Zealots are anti-Rome. The Herodians love Rome. They're all for Herod the king. Guess what happens when you get a Zealot and a Herodian in the room together? It's war. The Zealots, they would have riots that would go on places. They would start fights. They would pick fights with one another. And it even gets more complicated because the Pharisees like the Zealots but don't like the Herodians, and the Sadducees like the Herodians but don't like the Zealots. That's the idea. They all hate one another. And the Essenes are so tired with everything, they move out of Jerusalem. They start a convent outside of the city. They're out in the wilderness. They're like, I don't want a part of any of you. We're going to start our own city out here. Which, incidentally, if you're ever wondering why John the Baptist is in the wilderness, because he's an Essene. When you take a look at it, the scribes are actually made up of all the different peoples. There's like a little bit of each one of them. They were mostly Pharisee, but they had some of them. So they hated themselves and everybody else. Right? The Samaritans, those are the people that survived after Israel was wiped out earlier in their history. And so they're kind of half races. They're half Assyrian, half Jews. They want to worship on this mountain, not on this mountain. So both the Pharisees and Sadducees can agree that they don't like them. And the Samaritans don't like them because of it. They're actually even divided by land. Jesus knows when he's in Samaritan land and when he's in Jewish land as a result of that. Do you get the idea? This is a dysfunctional family, right? They don't like each other. But then Jesus comes here to earth, walks among them, gives them the greatest message that they've ever heard, goes to the cross, is raised from the dead, ascends into heaven. Peter preaches a message. 3,000 people are saved. Guess who the 3,000 are? All these people. All the people that had collected together, they were there for Pentecost. They were collected together. So guess what happens then? United under Jesus, right? You are now a people. Can you imagine, this is our small group launch weekend, right? Can you imagine the first dysfunctional small group? You grab one from every one of these 7 and you get together in a room and you're sitting in a circle, right? And you're like, all right. You know, the leader comes in. It's great, I'm excited. Small group, yeah, Jesus is real. Who'd have thought, right? Awesome. Silence, right? You could hear a pin drop. They looked around, it's like, who invited the rest of them? Right? It comes together, it's got that. But you know that over time, this is the power of what Peter is talking about here. They were a people now. And when they came together, all of a sudden, one day, the Sadducee had to come up to the Pharisee and say, you know that thing with resurrection, you were right. Right? He did raise, we were wrong, whatever, don't talk to me. Right? Because it wasn't all roses, right? They were knit together. All of a sudden, they had something that transcended every boundary, every division that they had, brought them together. His name was Jesus. They once were not a people. Now they are a people. This is powerful. It's the same for us. We live in a same divided society with same divisions and same lines around political ideas and social ideas, all of those different kinds of things. But through the power of Jesus, you were once alone, you are now a people. You are now a holy nation. It's who you are. We are the church. That's the power of this. This doesn't sound normal to me. This is way better than normal. And as the church, there's something that we need to know. A person who is willing to give up everything can change anything. A person who is willing to give up everything can change anything. There was something missing in my life. It was this people idea. I had no idea what I was being called into, no idea what the direction looked like, that we were supposed to be a people that were actually knit together. We had a mission. We had things that we needed to learn and character that needed to be transformed so that we could reach the world around us. I had no idea what that even looked like. As a matter of fact, I didn't even find it until my sophomore year in college when somebody looked at me and said, John, you've been skipping small group. I was like, what? Skipping small? Yeah, it's required. It's a part of our major. You got to go to a small group. I did not want to go to a small group. I did not want to enter into that. I didn't want to be a part of that. I didn't want to commune with that. I kept thinking, my schedule is too busy. I don't even know what's going on. I was scared. I was like, honestly, what if I don't like them or they don't like me, through that process? I don't know what that even looks like to be a part of that. I went there. I drug my feet for so long. I'd gotten so many hours. They called it gratis. That was their discipline thing. I was washing vans one semester. I didn't want to go to small groups so bad. I believe it. One day I went in. I decided to go in. I found a group of people. We were all different. There were students. Some of us were young. Some of us were old. Come from different backgrounds. There were professors with PhDs in there, and there was me. I'm a second-year student, undergrad. All different backgrounds, all different experiences. We got together. I felt like it was so awkward. I had no idea what we were going to do. Are we going to sing? I don't have a voice. What's going on? I don't want to do this. I had no idea what was going on. There's a characteristic feature of Jesus, though. When he's here on earth, he lived life close to people because he knew he was on mission to build this people, to put this people together, to transcend all boundaries, to gather them together into one spot so that there would be no more division, so we could accomplish God's will here on earth. He knew that he was about that, so people were able to live so close to him that they were able to ask questions. They were able to be in each other's lives. They were able to ask Jesus things like, I don't get, or what do you mean by, or in one spot they said, we tried to do what you were doing and it didn't work for us. Why didn't that work for us? Powerful questions to come together, and they were able to seek answers together to transform lives, to transform characters, and so that they could be the people that began the movement on earth, that began this people and holy nation on earth. I found that for the first time in that room. I can remember the first time one of the guys with a PhD in New Testament admitted to struggling. I had never heard that in church before. We don't admit no, wait a minute. We're good all the time. They taught me that. We're good all the No, he said, no, I've been struggling with something. I can remember the feeling, you can say that? They won't stone you? Yep, you can say that. It transformed me. I was missing it in my life. See, because on paper, it didn't look good. On paper, it looked like it was going to cost me time. It was going to cost me resources. It was going to cost me maybe relationships if they don't like me. It was going to cost all these things. But in experience, it gave me something that I could not even imagine for myself. A people united around a single idea moving forward in our relationships. Being better after we met than before we met as a result. I was missing that. I want to close with this. One day I started a small group of my own. I'd caught the vision. I'd gotten, this is what it's about. We're about this connection. We come together, we learn, we're transformed, we go out into the world, we move the gospel of Jesus Christ throughout. I was starting to get it, that this is how it works. We meet big, we meet little, we go out. I was getting that kind of concept, so I started a small group. And I invited everybody in, and I think it was like the second or third time that we met. And there were a lot of us in the room. And I told them, here's what I want you to do. I want you to bring different items for dessert. I want you to bring a cake, but I don't want you to ice it. I want you to bring whipped cream. I want you to bring, your favorite ice cream, whatever you like. I want you to bring your favorite cookies, your favorite candy bars. If you like sprinkles, bring sprinkles. I personally don't like sprinkles, but you can bring sprinkles. Have you ever tasted a sprinkle by itself? It almost tastes like nothing. You know what I mean? It's like food dye somehow, But somehow, when you put it on things, I don't know. I said, bring it. Bring it there. They brought it. I had a table full of stuff. All kinds of things, all kinds of stuff on this table. I put in a video because they were going to watch the video and then we were going to talk about it afterwards. While they were watching the video, I went into the kitchen and I took all of these ingredients and I combined them together. I started with a ground floor of brownies. I thought that was the best way to do it, right? I mean, structurally. Then I iced the brownies, and I put whipped cream on top of that, and then cake on top of that, and then ice cream on top of that, and I put Oreos, like a checkerboard, all over the top of that, and I ground up their candy bars and sprinkled their sprinkles, and this thing was like 8-10 inches deep. I mean, it was held together sheerly by my willpower, right? Because everything is melting all over the place. The fact that my wife is still married to me, I made such a mess that night. I mean, there was sticky everywhere as a result of this. It was this ooey, gooey monstrosity. And I took it and I brought it in my living room. And I set it down on the middle of the table. It's like, you guys have been wondering why you had to bring all this stuff. And they're like, yes, but now we see, what have you done, right? They looked at this pile of dessert monstrosity. I said, guys, I want to tell you something about you. You and I, we are like this dessert. We are made up of all these different pieces, all of these different parts, all of these different backgrounds, these different fears, hurts, wants, desires, futures, pasts, all of these different things. It's all this jarbled deal, right? And we have come together in one spot to do something about that and to accomplish the mission of God. It's messy, isn't it? Like, yeah, it's messy. We see that. You're sticky, the floor's sticky, the table's sticky. We get it. It's messy. What do you mean? I said, well, here's what I want you to do. I want to cut this, and I want to eat it. So we did. We cut it, we eat it, we served it. They started picking through, and all of a sudden, I saw the light bulbs start to go off. They were like, hey, this looked really bad, but it tastes really good. Right? I mean, you're picking out all the different parts, You're like, okay, I'll have an Oreo with a brownie. That sounds, that almost sounds kind of sinful, right? They tried it. They put it together. They ate through this dessert, right? I said, guys, on paper it didn't look good. On paper it looks messy. It looks like, can I give up that time? Can I give up that resource? But in reality, it's the sweetest thing you can possibly do. Because when we decide that we're willing to be the people of God, that we're willing to be a holy nation, a priesthood, when we decide that we're willing to get together, we're willing to go in those spots, we're willing to ask each other questions, we're willing to go forward, we can accomplish the will of God. We can change the world. Because a person or a people that are willing to give up everything can change anything. We can change it. I want to pray for you. God, thank you for this room full of people. God, thank you for who they are. Thank you for what you've done in their lives. God, we come before you a people. We want to be a people. We want to be on mission. We don't want normal anymore. We want to go beyond normal. God, I pray that you would help us to do that, God. There are some of us in this room, we need to unite together. The very next step in our walk with you, we need to come together. We need to find a small group. We need to find people that ask those. There are so many reasons on paper why we shouldn't be doing that, but we know for a fact we should be doing it because we are a people, God. Help us to overcome the barriers. Help us to overcome the barriers, God. Help us to lay aside the fears, God. Help us to come together in one spot and to push our lives forward with you, God. We want to be on mission. In the end, none of this other stuff is going to matter. It is only going to matter how we respond to you. And so, God, I pray that you would help us to do that. Help us to find that place of community. I pray that it would be magnetic. You would draw us to the environment you want us to be in. God, I pray for that person that's here and they've been seeking you. They want to have a relationship with you. They're ready for that now. They want to be a part of this people. The idea of their guilt and shame being removed from them, it's the greatest deal that the world has ever seen. And so, God, right now, I just pray that they would say, God, I trust you. You don't have to say it out loud. You can just say it inside. God, I trust you. Come into my life. Remove my guilt. Remove my shame. God, I pray that you would just be with them. That you would confirm to them they are now a people. And that, God, you would help them to do what it took me years to find other people, to find that connection, to step out with you. God, we dedicate this time. We love you, God. We dedicate it to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.